Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings. Hello, fellow wanderers. Welcome to the Nature Wanderer podcast, the podcast where we slow down, step outside, and take in the beauty of the natural world, one adventure at a time. I'm Paul, and I'm happy to be a part of the third edition of Podcasthon. You're probably wondering, what is Podcasthon? Well, for 1 week, more than 1,000 podcasts will highlight a charity of their choice, bringing awareness about the good that these charities do. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Great Lakes Great Responsibility. So grab your walking stick or maybe just a comfy chair by the window, because today we're highlighting a great organization that is helping to clean up the Great Lakes that we can all enjoy them. Hello, friends. Today I am participating in Podcasthon 2025. The charity that I am highlighting today is committed to preserving the beauty of the Great Lakes and amplifying environmental education through tangible efforts, including organized marine debris cleanups. They raise awareness about plastic pollution in the Great Lakes and help individuals become good stewards of the environment. Through their organized cleanups, they have removed more than 360,000 pieces of litter from the Great Lakes Basin. That's amazing. Today, I have invited the president and founder, Meg Schwartz, to join us to tell us a little bit about the Great Lakes Great Responsibility. Meg founded the nonprofit in 2000, so let's jump right in and learn about this wonderful organization. Welcome.
Yeah, I want to say we founded it in 2020, so we haven't been going for 25 years. We've been going for just 5 years. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Paul. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well,
I'm excited to talk about Great Lakes Great Responsibility and the amazing marine debris community that we've kind of established over the last 5 years through organized cleanups and a bunch of other fun marine debris prevention and removal activities.
That sounds good. Yeah. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about what Great Lakes Great Responsibility is all about?
Sure. Yeah. So we're focused on marine debris prevention and removal. And when I say marine debris, folks sometimes are like, well, we have freshwater here. What is marine debris? So when I'm talking about marine debris, I'm talking about like solid, persistent, human-made trash, essentially, that ends up in our waterways. The primary source of that tends to be stormwater. So we're trying to remove that through organized cleanups. And then we have individuals that also clean up around the Great Lakes Basin, just in their own neighborhoods and things. And then we're also trying to prevent it by educating others about how they can make better choices in their own life, maybe get into the advocacy world, talk to their legislators about how, decisions up the food chain can help with our marine debris and protecting our freshwater.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I mean, I've learned a lot about the Great Lakes. It's right in my backyard. So I know about the conditions of the Great Lakes, but my listeners may not. Not everyone who listens to my podcast are from the area. They're not familiar with the Great Lakes. So can you enlighten them about the health of the lakes? I mean, why clean up the trash? Is it really that bad?
Yeah, so we hear a lot about plastic in the oceans, but we don't really think about plastic in our freshwater. But we have over 30 million people that rely on the Great Lakes for their drinking water. And because the lakes are smaller than the oceans, the concentration of plastic is exacerbated because there's a whole bunch of development around the Great Lakes. There's estimated to be 22 million pounds of trash that enters the Great Lakes every year. That's a number that came out of the Rochester Institute. So I believe, we are the stewards of our Great Lakes. We are the keepers of our water, those of us that live in the Great Lakes region, and they're worthy of our protection, not only as a local resource, but as a global resource. It's truly our responsibility, which is why I called it Great Lakes Great Responsibility for us to, as the locals here that live in the watershed, to be protecting our water. I was just on a call a couple of days ago about microplastics in the Great Lakes in particular, and those are, the most noxious sorts of marine debris. They come from, primary sources like nurdles, the foundation of our plastics, the things that plastics are made out of, but they also come from plastics that break down in the water. So it's really important to get plastic while it's still big and can be removed by hand, because once it breaks down into microplastics, it's really impossible to remove at this point, with the technologies that we have in hand.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the microplastics. I've heard a lot about it, researched a lot about it, and I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people understand that the big plastic that gets into the water breaks down into the little microplastics, and then it's a problem. It's hard to remove.
Hmm.
So you did found this organization in 2020.
Yeah.
What was your passion to do that? I mean, why? I mean, it's a big area. Why did you decide, well, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it really manifested from some frustration that I found in finding lots of trash on my own local beach. So I live up in rural Northeast Michigan along the shores of Lake Huron, not right on the water, but a couple blocks away. And I've been coming to the same beach really over and over again for the past few decades and keep finding more and more trash. So at the end of 2020, it was after a year of, people using the beach, COVID times, being local and being outside with each other, which is great, but found a bunch of trash on my beach and was frustrated. And I like to have numerical goals for myself. So I was brainstorming quickly, you know, I'd like to pick up 100,000 pieces of trash or maybe even 1 million pieces of trash. And a quick calculation told me that even if I picked up 100 pieces of trash every day, it would take me over 26 years to pick up 1 million pieces on my own. But I
That's a
know
long
that there
time.
are people, yeah, a long time for certain. I know there's people like you and other Great Lakes Guardians across the region that might help me accomplish this 1 million piece goal. So that was really the big call to action, the big goal that we've been rallying around is what we're calling the Great Lakes 1 Million Challenge. So that's, anger turned into action, I think, is the story that I like to tell.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this 1 million challenge.
Yeah. So basically, we have organized cleanups that we, have all over the region, mostly focused in Northeast Michigan or where our board members are right now.
Mhm.
But we are looking to have maybe a how to host your own cleanup tutorial or a virtual call this spring to empower people to do that more. But in combination with our organized cleanups and then individuals also tracking how many pieces of trash that they clean up. Um, we have picked up over, 360,000 pieces, like you had mentioned, of individual
Mhm.
pieces of trash. And so it's just a simple matter of counting, right? At this point, we don't have folks weigh trash or anything like that. If you are able to count, so, 4-year-olds all the way to 100-year-olds, you are able to join the Great Lakes 1 Million Challenge and kind of just rally around this collective, like big goal. But, over the past 4 years or four cleanup seasons, we've been able to do a whole lot more than I ever would have been able to do on my own.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you're a third of the way there, so
Yeah, yes.
yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
It's a like you said, it's a really big thing to do, though. 'Cause, I mean, most people, well, I shouldn't say most, but people who aren't around this area, around the Great Lakes, probably don't realize how big it is. I mean, there's 5 Great Lakes. I was doing some research and I found that it's 94,000 square miles, six
Yeah.
quadrillion gallons of water. I mean, I can't even fathom that number. I mean, the number of zeros
Yeah.
in that. It's 1/5 of the world's freshwater supply, surface supply, 8 states border, plus parts of Canada.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a big area. Does it scare you when you saw how big an area? I mean, why not just do something in Michigan? Why the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
Great Lakes? I mean, was that a scary thing to, think about?
It is kind of, but I think that it's led to, really big numbers and like activating a larger audience that is taking action in their own communities. I do find that there is value in thinking global but acting local. So, the past couple of cleanup seasons, I have been focusing more on Northeast Michigan with the organized cleanups that I've been able to host. But
Mhm.
there are other guardians that have become kind of, I don't know, branches, if you will, of us that are hosting cleanups in their own region and taking action locally. So I think that
Mhm.
having like a collective community is important because, who owns the Great Lakes? Nobody does. We all do. And we all
Right.
have this
Right.
collective, public responsibility to keep them clean. But yeah, you're right. It is a really big region, but I
Yeah.
think that that just is
Yeah.
the potential for even more stewards and, even more folks to take care.
Yeah, I kind of like how you call them guardians because
Yeah.
we're all taking care of the Great Lakes. We really need to. So I really like the way you call them that. I did notice on the main page, and I'll put all the links in the show notes to your website. But I
Yeah.
noticed on your main page you have a Google map of where all the cleanups have been done. And I noticed that there's nothing in Western New York in my neck of the woods, and that kind of surprised me. Well, it partly surprised me, partly didn't, because we have an organization in the area that kind of concentrates on the waters in the area, cleaning them up. They do some cleanups along Lake Erie, but still there just should be more, in my opinion. So I'm wondering, how people can spread the word, how you're spreading the word to get more cleanups in different areas. Because it seems, I mean, obviously you're in Michigan. Most of the cleanups are in Michigan that I noticed on the maps, but there's some small scattered areas. How do we get it, more information out to other people? I mean, hopefully the podcast helps, but
Yeah, yeah. I do want to shout out, you mentioned, there's some local folks that are taking action in your community. And
Mhm.
I'm aware of like Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper is one
That's
that's
who I
really
was
vocal. Yep.
thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to say we're not the only ones doing this. Since I've joined this marine debris prevention community, there are a multitude of different Great Lakes cleanup organizations around the region. So would invite folks to research what's happening in their own region if they want to be part of like a group cleanup. But if you are interested in like how to take action in your own community, perhaps if you want to host your own cleanup, we do have a resource page that's on our website. So I believe it's under the Take Action tab, and then there's a link that's how to host a cleanup, and it will take you through like the before the cleanup, what are the planning things I need to consider, accessibility wise, how do I, market this thing? How do I actually have people show up? And then during the cleanup, what am I doing? How am I activating people? How do we keep people safe? And then after, what do I do with all this trash that we just collected? Am I taking
That's a
it
big
home
one.
with
Yeah.
me? So it's important to have a conversation with whoever the land steward is if you're doing a public cleanup. And making those plans ahead of time. And I believe this spring we do have plans to host a virtual kind of how to host a cleanup tutorial to have some of these guardians, kind of be the chief guardian in their area. And it's really a simple process. And we just want to make sure that people feel comfortable, make sure that they have the right kind of equipment and they're prepared and feel confident when taking on a cleanup.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I know it's kind of scary if someone is like, well, do I have the knowledge to do the cleanup, the resources? So I'm glad you're putting that on the website so that people know what to do, know that it's not such a scary thing. Here's all the
Yeah,
instructions. This is all you need to know. And then let them, go out there and just do it. So that's great.
yeah. It doesn't
Um,
have to be perfect.
right, right. Just got to make sure you know how to count too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If you can count, that's really helpful for our
Yep.
goal.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I didn't notice on your website you do have reporting trash. So is that for like if someone goes out and on their own, they're just walking the beach? There's people who just don't like to do the big social cleanups, I guess is what you might call it. They just want to
Yeah.
go out and just go for a walk along the beach and they're picking up trash. Is that so that they can record it?
Exactly. Yep. So
Okay.
if you don't want to be, if you're more of an introvert or if you just, clean up trash in your own neighborhood, yes, there is a quick Google form that we use to help populate that Google map that you saw, that's on our site and it asks you, where did you pick up the trash? It'll either ask you for the closest address or a GPS location, how many pieces, and then there are just a few questions about like, the most common types of things, or did you find anything like of concern? So there's a space for you to fill that out there and then contact information too for us to follow up if you have any questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Yeah. It makes it
Yeah.
even easier. People like easy. So,
Simple, yeah. And
yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
even if people, I don't want to say like don't fill out the form because we love seeing, the map being populated. But I think that we have kind of inspired this army of guardians, if you will, that maybe aren't even counting or
Yep. Yep.
reporting, but they just see trash and pick it up, which is, the main goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know whenever I'm out on the trail, whether it's along the beach or in the woods, I always have a plastic bag with me so I can pick up garbage and, along the trail and take it out of the woods. If I don't have my bag with me, it goes in my pockets and take care of it. So, and I
Yeah,
don't record that anywhere, but it's good that you're recording it, letting people know that, hey, we're making a difference. So, yeah, that's
exactly.
great.
Yeah.
Now I do have to ask you, I did notice on your website, and this was new to me, and I really had to look it up. It says plogging, Plogging. I've never heard that term before. Can you explain that to my listeners?
Yeah,
What
this
is
one comes out in
plogging?
Northern Europe. Yeah, plogging
Oh,
is a combination of the word plaka, which means to pick up, and then jogging. So basically, it's a thing in like the jogging runner community where when you're out for a run, or even if you're out for a walk, if you're not a jogger or a runner, you pick up trash along the way. People who are out on the trails are really on the front lines in terms of where trash goes. Trash is usually where humans go. So, kind of
yeah.
like what you do in bringing a bag with you along the trails, do the same thing. You're basically bringing a bag with you, picking things up, maybe getting a few squats in along the way with your workouts, and making the earth and our Great Lakes region a better place by picking up trash. I think there's been some clogging competitions too.
Oh,
Who
really?
can pick up the most trash, who can do it the quickest. So we haven't hosted any of those yet, but it's a really fun way to engage that audience in being stewards.
So if anyone's listening who is a runner and you want to put a challenge out there, pick up some trash, you're more than welcome to do that. We encourage you.
Exactly.
Um, I Now, besides picking up trash, I mean, that seems to be the main thing that you're encouraging people to do, which is definitely needed in the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Um, what else can, people do to help support the Great Lakes' great responsibilities or the Great Lakes in general? I mean, what else can they do besides just picking
Yeah.
up trash?
I think starting with an inventory of your own consumption is a great thing to do. So my husband and I were just talking about doing a waste audit in our own home, and seeing, just exactly what we're throwing in the trash, what we're recycling, what is like the highest amount of waste that we're generating. Because plastic at this point is really unavoidable. So, as much as you can like vote with your dollar, sometimes you have to buy plastic. So, we go through like the 3 R's, the 5 R's, the 7 R's of refuse, reduce, recycle, all those things. And I would
Hmm.
say begin with refusing. So if you are able to just say no to plastic, say no to straws, plastic cutlery, plastic bags, things like that. I think, most folks are aware of those things if you're in the environmental world, but if this is the first time you are hearing refuse all of those items,
Yep. Yep.
that's number
It's-
one. And then number two, we need to turn off the plastic tap. We need an alternative solution to plastic, and there are alternatives out there, but they're just not economically viable at this point. So getting into the ears of decision makers, legislators, about different marine debris or plastic pollution
mhm.
is the next step, really, because money talks in the world of production and plastics, and until there is something that is an economically viable option, we're just going to continue to produce more plastic and pollute our waters, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Most marine debris is not intentional dumping, but we live in a plastic world. So I would
Hmm.
recommend, those two actions. And yeah,
Yeah, I'm always trying to encourage people to cut back on their plastic and other waste. And, it's like today is garbage day in my neighborhood. And my listeners probably know that I just moved to a small development, lived down in the country for 12 acres for many, many years. And we just moved into a small development and it drives me crazy. Like today, there's so many garbage cans out on along the road. One house has two garbage cans. People have recyclable out and it's not recycle week. Every
yeah,
other week is recycle week. And, it's like that's just going to end up in the landfill. And at the end of my driveway, there's no garbage can. We didn't have
yeah,
enough to put out. It's
yeah,
just people need to learn to cut back. And I keep stressing that with people.
yeah,
One thing I will say to everyone is, it's not always easy. It's a habit you have to learn to do. I still go, when I go to a restaurant, I still forget every time. I ask for a glass of water and they always bring a straw. It's like, oh, I forgot again. So it's just a habit that you have to do. So
it
that
is.
probably helps.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
We did in our house, we tried the no buy January, where you're just not purchasing
Oh,
anything that isn't super necessary. And that was really successful, I think, to get, to break that habit of just going to Amazon or going online and like immediately buying something when you think of it. Why don't you pause, maybe take a
hmm.
couple breaths, a couple weeks to think about it before hitting that click. It can be really hard to break though.
It
And
is. Yep.
in terms of getting into the habit of no straws, we're trying to get into restaurants a little bit. We had a campaign last November called No Bag November, where we, spoke with some restaurants and other local businesses about not automatically offering a bag, because if they're not a chain or a big corporate entity, they have the power to do that and be an
Right.
example.
Right.
So we're kind of starting small with that No Bag November and would invite other businesses if you're a business owner or know a business owner that wants to join that. We'll be doing that again this year and seeing how it goes. Not necessarily no bags altogether, because sometimes bags are a necessary item to, especially for food folks, but
Hmm.
not automatically bagging everything or twice bagging everything, trying to get
Right.
business owners out of that habit too.
Right. Yeah. Well, nice thing about being in New York here, we have banned single-use plastic bags in the stores. So
Oh, beautiful.
some stores are still using them, unfortunately, but
Okay.
they are banned here in New York State. So
Yeah.
most people, my wife owns a business and we just use paper bags, and we even have a sign on the door, bring in your canvas bag, help save the
Awesome.
environment. So I really like that idea of the November, no bag November.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have to encourage more stores to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Ontario has been able to actually ban quite a few single-use plastics too. They're really leading the way in terms of, I believe that they've like categorized them as like a health issue, because they're polluting our
yeah.
fresh water. So one of our board members was driving across Canada to get over to Vermont or New Hampshire earlier, last year, and she stopped at a McDonald's, and encountered that all of their silverware was wood. There were no straws,
Oh, wow.
everything was an alternative. So a corporate chain like McDonald's can do it. They can find the alternatives and make it happen if they want to stay open. So I'm really keen on learning more about how exactly they got that legislation in place and how we might, go by state in the Great Lakes region to, protect our fresh water in that way.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention about, besides doing the cleanups and all, educating. Do you
Yeah.
do a lot of educating about runoffs? Maybe going to some of the big, I don't know, factories along the Great Lakes and, showing people that, hey, they're just dumping their waste into the Great Lakes. And I know there has been a lot of legislation in different states about not, letting your waste from your factory go directly into the lakes. So
Yeah.
are you educating on that too?
So there are other entities that educate about specifically about like chemical pollution and runoff and things like that. We have really mostly just focused on marine debris and like the
Okay.
solid wastes, just
Okay.
because it is really overwhelming when you think about all of the issues in the Great Lakes. You're
Oh,
like the
yes.
species, the
Yes.
fisheries, so you've got harmful
Yep.
algal blooms and all of these things. So
Yep.
we, of
Invasive
course,
species, and yeah,
yes,
there's so
yes,
much. There
work
is.
with partners
Yep.
that do those things, but we're really, kind of tunnel visioned on marine debris and carrying that torch.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
would say
Yeah,
with
you have to.
education, I work, my professional job is with the Northeast Michigan Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative. So that's my real job, if you will, where we do stewardship projects with youth. So our main target for educating is with the future decision makers of the region, our youth. So I work with kindergarten through 12th grade students to do stewardship projects. And then, of course, their parents are often involved in that too. So working our way up the age chain. But organized cleanups tend to have lots of kids there, which I think makes a meaningful impact when they're
Oh,
younger,
yeah. Yeah. They
And
remember that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And then it can just have a cascade effect throughout their life, kind of a ripple effect, if you will, as they're making decisions and maybe even choosing their own careers. I don't know.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
So, I guess the main thing I want to say right now or ask is how can people support you, support the organization?
Yeah.
Is there a way for them
Um,
to make donations besides doing cleanups, organizing cleanups?
Certainly.
I imagine you have expenses.
We do have expenses.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We're completely volunteer run by right now. So expenses, you know, they're all over the place. It's mostly like cleanups. And then we also have like a mini grant program that helps other organizations do really
Mhm.
cool things. So like-minded organizations to host cleanups on their own. So building capacity across the region, not just with our organization. But we do have a donation link on our website. GreatLakesLove.org is our website. And I think you mentioned you're going to link it.
Yep. I will
Um,
have a link.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And you can, there's a variety of ways that you can give, either monthly or one time. But we would appreciate your support if you're not able to come to a cleanup and you still want to support us. We would love a donation. So
Yeah.
appreciate you shouting us out in that way.
Yeah, that'd be great. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll leave a link in the show notes to the website, and people can make a donation there then.
great.
Before we
Awesome.
wrap up, is there anything you'd like to conclude with, or?
Uh, I would also invite folks to check out our social media pages. We're on
Mhm.
Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. TikTok is actually our biggest platform. We've got close to 250,000 followers over there, so
Wow,
pretty big audience.
that's
And a lot
great.
of those are young people, which is, kind of the target audience for
Yep.
us. So come check us out. Our handles are Great Lakes Great Responsibility or Great Lakes Love. We're also on YouTube, but I don't post as often over there.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I think
Thank
what you're
you.
doing is great. I wish you the best of luck. And to all my fellow wanderers out there, thank you for joining Meg and I today. If you'd like to support Great Lakes, Great Responsibilities, you can visit their website at greatlakeslove.org. I will leave the link in the show note. It's a wonderful organization. I'll leave all the links for everything you need in the show notes. And if anyone wants to plan a cleanup this spring or summer, visit the link in the show notes as well. Drop me a line, or maybe we can organize one right here in Western New York. Get on the map. Let's get us on the map out there.
Woohoo.
So I hope you'll join me next week. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends. And above all, keep exploring the nature around you. Did you know that plastic is made with oil, a fossil fuel that pollutes the environment? And did you know that only about 15% of all plastic is recycled into new products? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic so that we could stop harming the planet? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic sells products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection from toothbrushes to food storage containers to drinking straws, all plastic free. And it's reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free.